Lily lived a quiet life with her father, Ron, and her mother. They didn't have much money, but they were happy, united, and had what really mattered: love and affection. Lily always felt safe with them until, unexpectedly, her mother fell ill. The illness was swift and relentless, and within a few months, she was gone, leaving a deep void in the life of the girl and her father. The days following the loss were dark. The house, once full of laughter and conversation, became silent. Ron was desolate, sunk in his grief. He threw himself into his work, trying to forget the absence that hurt him so much, while Lily, still a little girl, struggled to understand what it meant to lose someone forever. She felt alone, lost in a world that seemed to have changed completely. Time passed, and things only seemed to get worse. Ron, trying to find a way to move on, met Karen. To him, she was a practical woman who seemed to know how to take care of everything. Within a few months, they were married, but it soon became clear that Karen's presence would bring new difficulties for Lily. At first, Lily tried to get closer. She was still grieving for her mother and somehow wanted to believe that Karen could fill the void. "Hi, Karen. Can I help you with dinner?" asked Lily, her voice timid, trying to create a connection. But Karen only replied indifferently, "I don't need your help, Lily. Go to your room." The cold response came as a shock to the girl, but she thought that perhaps Karen just needed time. However, as the days went by, the coldness turned to contempt. Karen began to make it clear that Lily was just a nuisance. "You're a burden to your father, you know that?" she would say, not mincing her words, every time Lily tried to take part in family activities. Ron, wrapped up in his own worries, didn't realize what was happening. His health began to deteriorate, and Karen took more and more control of the house. "Ron, you need to rest. I'll take care of everything," she would say in a soft but calculated tone. Behind this facade, there was a plan afoot, and Lily sensed that something was wrong, but didn't know what to do about it. "Why do you always treat me like this?" Lily finally confronted Karen one evening, her voice weak and shaky. She couldn't stand being ignored and mistreated any longer, but her stepmother's response was even crueler. "You don't belong in this house, Lily. You never have." These words struck a deep chord in the girl's heart, and she felt the ground open up beneath her feet. Lily retreated to her room, where she cried herself to sleep, the weight of rejection crushing her shoulders. She missed her mother, the security and love that had once filled her life. Now, all that remained was Karen's coldness and the distance from her father, who was becoming more and more fragile. Although she tried to stay strong, Lily knew she was losing her place in her own home. Karen was keen to keep her away from any family decisions. When conversations about the future came up, Lily was left out. "These things aren't for children," Karen would say, looking at Ron with a controlled smile, while completely ignoring Lily's presence. One night, as Ron coughed more and more weakly in the next room, Lily heard him ask, "Where's Lily? She should be here." But Karen, always manipulative, replied, "She's fine. I'm taking care of everything, Ron. Don't worry about it." Ron, too weak to argue, accepted, without realizing what was really happening. Lily spent more and more time alone, isolated in her room, with only her memories to keep her company. She thought about her mother every day and how things had changed since her departure. The house, once a home, now seemed like a hostile place, full of shadows and unspoken words. The days went on, and Ron got sicker by the moment. Karen, who was now in complete control of the family's life, made a point of making it clear that Lily was not part of her plans. "You should start thinking about going somewhere else, Lily. There's no more room for you here," she said with a cold smile on her lips. But where am I going?" asked Lily, her voice small, trying to hide the fear that was beginning to take hold of her. But Karen, without a shred of compassion, replied, "That's not my problem." It was at that moment that Lily realized she was completely alone. Her father, sick and distracted, wouldn't protect her. And Karen would never care. Gradually, the feeling of abandonment became an undeniable reality, and Lily knew that somehow she had to find a way to survive, even if it meant leaving behind what little remained of her old life. Over time, the relationship between Karen and Lily became untenable. Karen had become the dominant figure in the house, and every day she made a point of leaving Lily more isolated. Lily's father, Ron, no longer had the strength to intervene, and his health was deteriorating by leaps and bounds. Karen, with a calculated eye, took advantage of this weakness to keep the young girl on the sidelines. The girl no longer felt part of the family, and any attempt to get close was immediately cut off. "You have no place here, Lily. There's no point in pretending we're all right," Karen said bluntly, her tone dry and direct. Lily, still hoping for a little empathy, asked, "Why do you hate me so much?" But Karen's answer was always full of contempt. "I don't hate you, Lily. I just don't need you around." These words weighed more and more heavily on Lily, who day after day was taken away from even the smallest daily tasks, where once she had helped her father with simple things like organizing the table or tending the garden. Now she wasn't even allowed to do that. Karen took care of all the household decisions, and Lily was kept at a distance, as if her presence were a constant nuisance. "Your father needs a rest, and you're always disturbing him. Go to your room and stay there until I tell you otherwise," Karen would order, without the slightest trace of affection or concern. Lily retreated, almost always without arguing. She had learned over time that arguing with Karen would get her nowhere. The times she tried to impose herself only resulted in more suffering and isolation. In that house, she had no voice, and as the months passed, Ron became increasingly ill. His coughing fits intensified, and he spent most of his time lying down, too weak to leave his room. Lily tried to visit him whenever she could, but Karen stopped her with ready-made excuses. "Your father is very tired. He needs peace, not unnecessary visits," she would say, blocking Ron's bedroom door with her body. Lily, frustrated and hurt, felt she was losing her father every day, not just because of his illness, but because of the distance Karen had imposed. "Why don't you let me see him? He's my father," Lily pleaded, her voice laced with emotion. "Your father needs rest, not worry. Now go." Lily's loneliness increased with every negative, and the time she spent in her room seemed endless. The house, once a cozy home, became cold and oppressive. She barely ate, barely spoke, and spent sleepless nights trying to understand how her life had gotten to that point. Memories of her mother came often, but they were a painful reminder of times she knew would never return. Karen, on the other hand, seemed to revel in the new dynamic. In control of the household finances and routine, she began to plan something that had been on her mind for a long time: getting rid of Lily once and for all. She knew that, with Ron becoming more and more fragile, it wouldn't be long before he left. And when that happened, she would have complete control. There was no room for Lily in her plans. "You're going to have to leave soon." "Lily," Karen said one morning, as she sipped her coffee with the greatest calm in the world. "Leave? Where would I go?" Lily asked, confused, her heart racing at the possibility of being expelled. "It's not my problem, but I'm already taking care of that. Just know that your time here is running out." Those words kept echoing in Lily's mind. Although she felt that her life in the house wasn't good, the thought of being sent somewhere unknown with no one by her side terrified her. Uncertainty crushed her. What would become of her? Where would Karen send her? With no one to turn to, Lily closed herself off even more. There was no one she could trust. Her old friendships had dissipated over the years, and now she was completely alone. At night, she cried softly, trying to find some solace in her own thoughts. But no thought brought relief. What she longed for most was a hug from her father, something that she felt could protect her from the world that was falling apart around her. But that didn't happen. The days went on gloomily, and Karen maintained her ruthless control over everyone's lives. Ron's silence was deafening, and with each passing day, Lily felt she was losing a little more of herself. She didn't know what was coming next, but she was certain that she couldn't trust Karen. In a moment of desperation, Lily tried again to speak to her father. She made her way to his bedroom door, determined to go in and tell him everything Karen was doing. She needed him to know. However, before she could open the door, Karen appeared, blocking her passage. "I told you, he's resting. Go to your room right now," said Karen, her tone as icy as her intentions. This time, without even giving space for a reply, Karen closed the door behind her and locked Lily out of any access to her father. A feeling of helplessness overtook Lily. She felt lost, aimless, and without any control over her own life. It was as if she was being erased, little by little, until she disappeared completely. Alone in her room, she sat by the window, watching the distant horizon, her heart squeezing. What would become of her future? After weeks of mounting tension, Karen made the decision that Lily had been dreading. "You're going to live with Mr. Maxwell. Pack your things," Karen said abruptly, without even looking at the girl, as she dumped an old suitcase on Lily's bed. "Who is Mr. Maxwell?" asked Lily, her voice filled with confusion and fear. She had never heard of this man before. "He's a distant relative of your mother's. He has a lot of money and a big house, the perfect place for you. He'll look after you from now on," Karen replied without showing any concern for Lily's feelings. "It's for the best. We don't have any more room for you here." Lily's heart sank. Although that house had become a place of pain and isolation, it was still the only home she knew. But Karen left no room for argument. "Be grateful. Mr. Maxwell is willing to take care of you. Not everyone would be so lucky." In silence, Lily packed her few things. There wasn't much to take, just a few clothes and memories of her mother, which Karen, luckily, hadn't thrown away yet. As she put the last item in her suitcase, she looked at herself in the mirror and felt a mixture of relief and sadness. She was leaving behind a life full of pain, but the unknown also terrified her. The next morning, Karen drove her to the door, where a sleek black car was waiting. The driver, who seemed to know exactly who she was, opened the door for Lily without saying a word. "Get in, and don't look back," said Karen, as if she was finally getting rid of a burden. Lily got into the car, and soon the vehicle began to drive away from the house she knew so well. As she drove away, she took one last look out of the window, trying to remember the last traces of her life there. What awaited her on the other side, she had no idea. The journey was long, and Lily, lost in her thoughts, tried to imagine who Mr. Maxwell might be. A distant relative? Why did he want her there? What did he expect of her? When the car finally stopped in front of an immense mansion, the young woman was impressed. It was a grand building with vast, well-kept gardens. It was hard to believe that she, such a simple girl, would live in such a place. When she got out of the car, the driver guided her to the main entrance. The door was opened by an elegant, middle-aged man with neatly combed gray hair. He looked at Lily kindly and smiled. "You must be Lily." "I'm Maxwell," he said in a soft voice. "I'm so glad you could come." Lily hesitated before replying, still suspicious. "Why did you want me to come?" she asked, her words laden with a mixture of curiosity and fear. Maxwell stepped forward, keeping his tone gentle. "I knew you weren't being treated the way you deserved, and no one should have to go through that. I wanted to offer you a home, a place where you feel safe." She looked at him in surprise. The imposing mansion looked intimidating, but Maxwell's words brought a little comfort. "You'll see, Lily. Things will be different here," he promised, holding out his hand towards the house. Lily followed him inside. As she entered, she was amazed by the decor. Although it was a grand place, there was a touch of warmth in every detail. There were paintings on the walls, bookshelves full of books, and the smell of freshly baked bread filled the air. It wasn't just a house, it was a home. "You can have any room you like," said Maxwell, leading her down the long corridor. "Choose the one you like best. I want you to feel comfortable here." Still wary, Lily chose a simple but pretty room with a large window overlooking the garden. The bed looked soft and cozy, the opposite of the coldness she felt in Karen's house. For the first time in a long time, Lily allowed herself to feel a tiny spark of hope. Later over dinner, Maxwell tried to get to know her better. "Do you like reading, Lily?" he asked, trying to strike up a conversation in a relaxed way. "Yes, my mother used to read to me every night," she replied, her gaze softening as she remembered her mother. "But I lost that habit after she left." Maxwell nodded understandingly. "Here you'll have all the time and space you need to find what makes you happy again. Take your time." Lily watched him as he spoke. There was a kindness in him that she hadn't expected to find. Although she was still confused as to why he had brought her into his home, there was something about the way he spoke and acted that put her at ease. Over the next few days, Lily began to adjust to her new reality. Maxwell kept his promise to give her the space she needed to feel comfortable. He didn't force conversations or try to invade her personal space, but he was always there when she needed him. One afternoon, while walking through the gardens, Maxwell approached her and said, "Lily, I know you've been through some difficult things, but I want you to know that here, you have the right to be happy. You no longer have to carry the weight that has been imposed on you." Lily looked at him, surprised by the depth of his words. "I don't even know what it means to be happy," she confessed, her voice low but honest. Maxwell smiled, understanding. "You'll find out, Lily. Give it time. Sometimes happiness comes slowly." And so Lily began to blossom. Little by little, the scars left by Karen's contempt began to heal. The initial mistrust gave way to trust, and Lily found in Maxwell not just a protector, but someone who really cared about her. Now, she still thought about her father and what he was going through, but for the first time in a long time, Lily felt safe. The days at the Maxwell mansion became a period of transformation for Lily. The welcoming atmosphere and Maxwell's calm presence began to change something inside her. Lily, who had previously lived in constant tension, now had the opportunity to rediscover who she was, away from Karen's oppression and contempt. Maxwell kept his promise not to force anything. He always watched her from afar, respecting her space and time. For the first few days, Lily still felt withdrawn, as if she expected everything to fall apart at any moment. However, Maxwell's kind words and welcoming gestures were always there, reassuring her that this was indeed a safe place. One afternoon, Maxwell found her in the garden, where Lily was sitting on a bench, leafing through an old book she had found in the mansion's vast library. "Do you like the book?" he asked with a warm smile. "Yes," Lily replied, raising her eyes a little shyly. "I'd forgotten how good it was to read something like this." Maxwell sat down next to her, keeping a respectful distance. "Books have the power to transport us to other worlds. Sometimes that's what we need, don't you think?" Lily nodded. Although Maxwell was being kind, there was still a shadow of mistrust inside her. Years of mistreatment and contempt had taught her not to trust anyone fully. However, more and more, she felt that Maxwell was different. There was no rush in his words, no hidden intentions. He seemed genuinely interested in helping her find her own way. "You know, Lily," said Maxwell, breaking the silence, "the strength you have is incredible. Few people would go through what you've been through and still be able to keep an open heart. But you did it. You're strong." Lily looked at him in surprise. No one had ever said that to her before. Her life with Karen had been marked by words of belittlement and abuse, and to hear something so different stirred her in a way she couldn't explain. I don't know if I'm strong. In fact, I've always felt weak," she confessed, her voice low. Maxwell smiled again encouragingly. "Sometimes being strong just means surviving, and you've done more than that. Now it's time for you to live." These words resonated deeply with Lily. She had survived, yes, but to live? That seemed so far removed from the reality she knew. But with Maxwell by her side, she began to believe that maybe it was possible. Over the next few weeks, Lily found herself rediscovering interests she thought she had lost forever. She started going to the library more often, where she lost herself in adventure and fantasy books. Maxwell, always attentive, encouraged her. "Read everything you want. This is your place too," he said with a twinkle in his eye, happy to see her reconnecting with something that was clearly good for her. Once during a walk through the mansion's vast gardens, Maxwell suggested, "You know, Lily, maybe you could try drawing or painting. I think you might like it." Lily, who hadn't touched a drawing pencil since the days when her mother was still alive, hesitated. "I used to draw, but I don't think I'm any good at it." "You don't have to be good. You just have to like what you do," Maxwell replied wisely. "Here, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Just be who you are." These words, more than any other, began to unleash something inside Lily. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to try without fear of judgment, without fear of being punished or ridiculed. Maxwell never expected anything in return, and that was something new for her. Before long, Lily began to draw again, first timidly on loose sheets of paper. But as the days went by, she found genuine pleasure in seeing her ideas take shape on paper. Maxwell, always respectful, never pressured her, but his presence in the background, always supportive, was enough to give her the confidence she lacked. "This is amazing, Lily," he said one afternoon, looking at one of the drawings she had finished. "You have a lot of talent." Lily smiled, a real smile that rarely left her face in the days when she lived with Karen. "Thank you," she replied, not knowing exactly how to deal with sincere compliments. But little by little, she began to feel more comfortable with this new reality. Days at the mansion became a quiet and pleasant routine. Maxwell encouraged her to do whatever she wanted, and she increasingly discovered that she had skills and interests she had forgotten about. Lily began to blossom in a way that she herself had never imagined possible. As well as rediscovering her passions, Lily also began to feel an inner confidence that she had never had before. The security that Maxwell provided, both emotionally and physically, allowed her to look at herself with new eyes. Little by little, Karen's words, which had made her feel inadequate for so long, were replaced by new beliefs about herself. "You're much stronger than you think, Lily," Maxwell would repeat whenever he saw a trace of doubt in the girl's eyes. And Lily was beginning to believe it. Finally, one sunny afternoon, while painting in the shade of a tree in the garden, Lily looked around and realized something important. She was happy. For the first time in a long time, she felt she had a place where she was valued, where she could be herself without fear. What Maxwell had promised was coming true, and Lily felt that she was finally finding her inner strength. "I never imagined it would be possible to feel like this again," she said to Maxwell as he approached to look at the painting. "You've always had that strength inside you, Lily. It just needed a place to flourish," he replied, with a smile that reflected the pride he felt at seeing the young woman's progress. And at that moment, Lily understood that she wasn't just surviving. She was, in fact, living. Lily's peaceful time with Maxwell was abruptly interrupted by devastating news. Her father, Ron, had passed away. It was as if the ground had been ripped out from under her feet again. Despite all the distance Karen had put between them, Lily still hoped that her father would somehow recover, and perhaps, one day, understand everything she'd been through. When Maxwell heard the news, he went to Lily's room, where she was sitting by the window, looking out at the horizon with an empty expression. He carefully approached her and sat down next to her. "Lily," he began hesitantly. The pain on the girl's face said it all. "I've just had a call. Your father, he's gone." Lily remained silent, processing the words. Her mind seemed unwilling to accept what she had just heard. He's gone?" Her voice came out low, almost a whisper. Maxwell nodded, his gaze full of compassion. "Yes, my dear. He passed away this morning." For a moment, Lily just stared into the void, trying to hold on to any memory of Ron. But everything seemed distant. The pain she felt was not only from loss, but also from regret. She remembered all the times she had wanted to be close to him, but had been prevented by Karen. All the conversations that never happened, the words of love and goodbye that she could never say. The emptiness was now immense. Tears began to stream down Lily's face, silent but relentless. Maxwell, without saying anything, put his arm around her, offering what consolation he could. He knew that there were no words that could ease the pain of such a profound loss. "I'm sorry, Lily. I'm sorry for everything that happened. I wish things had been different for you," he said softly, as the young woman wept silently. After a while, when the tears finally began to subside, Lily looked at Maxwell. "I wish I could have told him how much I loved him, but I never had the chance." Her voice was broken, full of regret. Maxwell looked at her with understanding eyes. "He knew, Lily. I'm sure that, deep down, he knew how much you loved him. And I'm sure he loved you too, even if he couldn't show it in the way you needed." Lily nodded slightly, trying to find some solace in Maxwell's words. She knew he was trying to help her, but the emptiness in her heart was hard to fill. Still, the comfort of having someone by her side, someone who truly cared about her, made the pain seem a little more bearable. But before she could even begin to process her pain, Karen reappeared on the scene. It was only a matter of days before Karen returned to Lily's life, this time with clear intentions. After Ron's funeral, Karen arrived at the Maxwell mansion unannounced, determined and with a plan in mind. She rang the doorbell as if she owned the place, and Maxwell, who wasn't one to keep anyone waiting, went to greet her. When he opened the door, he found her with a smile that he immediately recognized as fake. "Maxwell," said Karen, her voice sweet but firm. "I'm here to pick up Lily. She's coming home with me." Maxwell stared at her for a moment, trying to understand her intentions. "Karen, Lily is right here. I'm looking after her. I don't think it's a good idea for you to try to take her back now, especially after everything that's happened." Karen let out a light but humorless laugh. "Do you think you're going to keep her here forever? She's my responsibility. Now that Ron's gone, it's up to me to look after her." There was an arrogance in her voice, as if she were stating an unquestionable truth. Maxwell, always calm, kept his tone serene. I don't think it's about what's best for you, Karen. It's about what's best for Lily. Karen's smile slowly disappeared, and she became serious. Do you really think you can stop me? Legally, I have every right to take her with me. She's my stepdaughter, and that's what Ron would have wanted. Maxwell took a deep breath. He knew Karen wasn't there out of concern for Lily. She had her eye on the inheritance that belonged to the young woman, the legacy her mother had left her. You're not here for Lily. You're here for the inheritance, aren't you? Maxwell asked, his voice calm but firm. Karen crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. The inheritance is part of it, yes, but it's also my legal right. Maxwell felt anger bubbling up, but controlled himself. He knew this battle wouldn't be easy. You can try to take it, Karen, but I'm not going to let it happen without a fight. Karen let out an impatient sigh. Do you really think you can take me on, Maxwell? I know the law, and I'm going to make sure Lily goes back where she belongs. Lily, who was listening to the conversation from the stairs, felt her heart race. The thought of going back to Karen was unbearable. She knew that her stepmother didn't care about her, only about the money she could get from controlling her. Trembling, she went downstairs and positioned herself next to Maxwell. I'm not going back with you, Karen, said Lily, her voice firm, although her body was still shaking. Karen looked at her with disdain. Do you think you have a choice, Lily? I'm in charge of you now. Make no mistake, you're coming with me. Maxwell put his hand on Lily's shoulder, offering support. She's not going anywhere, Karen, not without a battle. Karen gave them both a cold stare. All right, let's see what the court has to say about that. And with those words, she turned her back and walked out of the mansion, leaving behind a promise of a fight. Maxwell looked at Lily, who was visibly shaken. Don't worry, Lily. I won't let her get you out of here. We'll fight. Lily nodded, confident that this time she wasn't alone. Karen's unexpected visit had cast a shadow over the tranquility Lily had begun to build with Maxwell. They knew the battle for custody of Lily wouldn't be easy, but Maxwell was determined to do whatever it took to keep her away from her manipulative stepmother. Soon, the first legal documents arrived. Karen had filed a lawsuit demanding custody of Lily and claiming to be her legal guardian. Maxwell, knowing the seriousness of the situation, quickly hired an experienced lawyer. He sat down with Lily to explain what was to come. Lily, began Maxwell, his voice calm but serious, Karen is willing to fight to get you out of here, but I'm going to be by your side every step of the way. You don't have to worry. Lily looked at him, her eyes full of uncertainty. What's going to happen now? What if she manages to take me back? The thought of living with Karen again was terrifying. The manipulation, the contempt. There was nothing for her in that place except pain. Maxwell held her hands, conveying reassurance. We're going to court, and there, our lawyer and I are going to show you the truth about what happened. We have proof, Lily. It's not just your word against hers. Witnesses from the past are willing to talk, and I'll be by your side too. We're going to fight for you. Maxwell's words gave Lily some comfort, but fear still hung over her. The thought of facing Karen and reliving all the painful memories was frightening. What if the judge believes her? What if I can't tell him everything? Maxwell, ever patient, looked deeply into her eyes. Lily, I know this is scary, but you're not alone anymore. I believe you, and the court will also see the truth. But we need to be strong. And so the next few days were marked by meetings with lawyers and preparation for the trial. Maxwell gathered documents and testimonies from former employees who had witnessed Karen's abuse of Lily. The story of how the stepmother had isolated the young girl and treated her cruelly gradually began to take shape into a robust case. Finally, the day of the trial arrived. Lily entered the courtroom alongside Maxwell, feeling the weight of every step she took. Karen was already there, with her confident countenance and a lawyer at her side. She cast cold glances at Lily, as if she had already secured victory. In court, the battle began. Karen, in her role as experienced manipulator, presented herself as the concerned stepmother who only wanted the best for Lily. I always took care of her after her mother passed away. Ron trusted me to do that, and now it's my responsibility to continue looking after his daughter. She must come home with me, said Karen in an affected voice, trying to sound sincere. Maxwell, sitting next to Lily, gently squeezed her hand, conveying support. Karen's defense was based on legal rights and the role she technically held as stepmother, but Maxwell knew that the truth about her true nature would soon come out. Maxwell's lawyer began his defense by calling witnesses who had worked at Ron and Karen's house. A former gardener was the first to testify. "I saw how Karen treated Lily. She always left her aside, wouldn't let the girl near her father. Everyone in the house knew that Karen despised the girl." The gardener's words were followed by other witnesses who reinforced the same image. A cruel stepmother, interested only in money and control. With each testimony, Karen became more tense, her confident posture slowly beginning to crumble. Lily, on the other hand, felt a small flame of hope growing inside her. Then it was time for Lily to tell her story. Maxwell looked her in the eye before she took the witness stand. "You can do it. Just tell the truth. I'm here." With her heart racing, Lily sat down and began to speak. She told of how her life changed drastically after her mother's death, how Karen isolated her from everything, treated her cruelly, and in the end, practically threw her out of the house. "She never wanted me there. All Karen did was take me away from my father," said Lily, her voice shaky but firm. "She doesn't want to look after me. She just wants the money my mother left her." The silence in the courtroom was heavy, Lily's every word cutting through the air. At the end of her testimony, she looked at Karen, who was now avoiding her gaze. Her stepmother's mask of coldness was beginning to fall. When Maxwell went up to testify, he described the state in which Lily had arrived at his house. A fragile girl, emotionally devastated, but with an inner strength that he knew could flourish. "Lily deserves to be happy. She deserves a home where she is loved and respected. And Karen can't offer her that. All she did was hurt her," said Maxwell with conviction. The judge, after hearing all the parties, retired to deliberate. The time spent outside the courtroom seemed interminable. Lily could hardly breathe, waiting for the decision. When the judge finally returned, the courtroom was completely silent. "After hearing the witnesses and analyzing the evidence, this court has decided that custody of Lily will be granted to Maxwell," said the judge. Those words were an indescribable relief. Lily felt tears run down her face, but this time they were tears of relief, of liberation. Karen, furious, stood up abruptly. "This is absurd. She should be with me," she said, but her lawyer calmed her down, pulling her away, knowing that they had lost the battle. Lily looked at Maxwell, and he smiled at her, proud. "You did it, Lily. You were strong," he said as he hugged her. For the first time, Lily felt truly free. The tension of the court had passed, and with custody of Lily officially awarded to Maxwell, a new phase in her life was beginning. However, the court process wasn't easy for her. Reliving the abuse and facing Karen face-to-face brought all her pain to the surface. And even with the victory, the emotional weight was still with her. Maxwell realized this. He knew that although the legal battle was over, Lily was still dealing with the ghosts of the past. So he decided it was time to take a step forward and help her rebuild her life for real. "Now that all this is over, you can finally focus on you, Lily. You can be whoever you want to be without fear." Lily, still processing everything, nodded. "I know, but sometimes I still feel stuck in what happened. It all seems so confusing," she admitted, looking at Maxwell with eyes full of uncertainty. "What if I don't know what to do next?" Maxwell, ever patient, moved closer. "You don't need to have all the answers right now, Lily. The important thing is that you have time, something you didn't have before. You're free to discover what makes you happy at your own pace." Even with this newfound freedom, Lily still felt the weight of Karen's words echoing in her mind. "You're not enough. You only get in the way." It was hard to erase years of emotional abuse, but she knew Maxwell was right. She had time now. She had choices. Maxwell, ever attentive, suggested that Lily start therapy, something she was initially reluctant to accept. "I don't know if I can talk about all this again," she said nervously. But Maxwell reassured her. "It's not about reliving the pain. It's about understanding what happened and learning to let it go. You don't have to carry this burden alone." After thinking for a while, Lily agreed. Gradually, with the help of a kind and patient therapist, she began to open up the layers of her repressed emotions. For the first time, she was beginning to understand that what Karen had done was not her fault. It was as if, slowly, Lily was freeing herself from the emotional ties that had kept her trapped in the past. Meanwhile, Maxwell's mansion continued to be a safe haven. He encouraged her to explore her passions, offering her unconditional support. One day, when he saw her drawing in the garden, Maxwell approached her with a smile. "You have a lot of talent. You know that? I have an idea. How about exhibiting these drawings, perhaps in a small gallery?" Lily, surprised, looked at him. "Exhibit? Me? I don't think anyone wants to see my drawings, Maxwell. I do it just to calm down. I'm not that good." Maxwell laughed lightly. "You underestimate your talent. It's not about being the best. It's about sharing a part of who you are. And who knows? Maybe it will inspire other people. Besides, you deserve to shine, Lily." Although hesitant, Maxwell's words planted a seed in her mind. Maybe he was right. Maybe after years of being treated like nothing, it was time to show the world what she was capable of. And so, little by little, Lily began to believe in herself again. In court during the trial, Lily had also learned something valuable: her own voice. Facing Karen, telling her story, had been painful, but also liberating. She now felt more confident in expressing herself. With each therapy session, with each conversation with Maxwell, she felt her self-confidence growing stronger. One afternoon, while they were walking in the garden, Maxwell commented on the future. "You know, Lily, whatever you choose to do, I'll be here. Whether it's studying art, working, or simply discovering new passions. The important thing is that you choose what makes you happy." Lily paused for a moment, looking up at the blue sky above them. "I don't think I've ever thought much about the future. Before, it was all about surviving the present. Now it's different. It still seems strange to think of myself apart from what's happened." Maxwell smiled, understanding. "It's normal, but the future is there, waiting for you, and you deserve to live it with all the joy it can bring." This conversation marked a turning point for Lily. Although she was still processing her pain, she began to look to the future with more hope. The court had shown her that the truth prevails, and that, however frightening the process had been, she had been heard. Her voice had power. The emotional scars were still there, but now, with Maxwell and the support he offered, Lily was willing to face them. "I think I'm going to start thinking about college," she said one day casually, but with a glint of decision in her eyes. "Maybe something to do with art, or maybe psychology. I want to help people like me who have been through difficult situations." Maxwell was genuinely moved. "Lily, you have a huge heart, and whatever path you choose, it will be the right one. I'm sure of it." Over time, the courtroom became a distant memory. The court battle was difficult, but it also marked the beginning of a new journey for Lily. A journey of healing, of self-knowledge, and of rediscovering her strength. Every day, she became more confident, more in control of herself, and more aware that her past did not define her. Maxwell watched this transformation with pride. He knew that Lily still had a long way to go, but he also knew that she had everything she needed to walk that path with courage and determination. The courtroom had only been part of the story. Now it was time for Lily to write the rest. A chapter that would be full of new opportunities, discoveries, and, above all, freedom. The truth had finally prevailed. After the court ruling, Karen was unmasked, and custody of Lily remained with Maxwell. The sense of relief was immense, but that wasn't all. For the first time in years, Lily could breathe without the constant weight of Karen's manipulation and contempt. The freedom she had so longed for was now within her grasp, and with it, the chance to build a future away from her stepmother's shadows. Karen, humiliated and defeated, left the scene. With the trial against her, her image as a caring and devoted stepmother was destroyed. The evidence, the testimonies, and above all, Lily's courage in telling her story had revealed the real Karen to the world. She, who had always controlled everything and everyone around her, now had no power over Lily, and that destroyed her inside. Lily, on the other hand, felt something new: hope. There was a lightness in her life that she had never experienced before. The feeling of finally being free of Karen allowed her to concentrate on herself, something she had never been allowed to do. In the days following the trial, Maxwell noticed the change in Lily. "Walking feels different now," said Lily, as she strolled through the mansion's garden alongside Maxwell. "It's like I can really look at the world around me without fear of what comes next." Maxwell smiled, pleased to see her progress. "You deserve this, Lily. You deserve to live without fear, without the ties that bind you. Lily paused, looking at the flowers that swayed gently in the wind. I wonder what my mother would say if she were here, if she saw the person I'm becoming. Maxwell looked at her tenderly. I think your mother would be very proud of you. You've faced so many difficulties, and yet you found a way to be strong, to keep going. It's not easy, Lily, and you did it. These words warmed Lily's heart. For a long time, she had wondered if she would ever escape Karen's shadow. But now, seeing how much she had changed, she felt she was on the right track. I think this is the first time I've believed it. The first time I feel I'm really strong, she said, a shy smile appearing on her face. Maxwell, always attentive, put his hand on her shoulder. You've always been strong, Lily. Now you can only see that. The days that followed were a mixture of discovery and acceptance. Lily not only accepted that the past was part of her history, but began to allow herself to dream of the future. Maxwell's house, once a place of refuge, now became a real home. A place where she could be whoever she wanted, without fear or judgment. One afternoon, while they were in the living room, Maxwell brought in an envelope that had arrived in the mail. Looks like someone wants to see you, he said, handing the envelope to Lily. Lily looked at the sender in surprise. It's from the court. Does it have to do with Karen? Her heart raced for a moment, but Maxwell, with his usual calm, smiled. Open it and find out. With hesitant fingers, Lily opened the envelope and began to read. It's a restraining order, she said in surprise. Karen is forbidden from coming near me or trying to contact me. Maxwell nodded. I asked for it to make sure you're protected, so she never has the chance to hurt you again. Lily felt a wave of relief as she read the words. It was one more barrier separating her from Karen, one more layer of protection that left her free to move on. Thank you, Maxwell. I don't know what I'd do without you, she said with sincere gratitude in her voice. Maxwell smiled, a smile full of pride. You did most of it, Lily. I just gave you the support. Now you're in charge of your life. With Karen's chapter over for good, Lily began to devote herself to new activities. She resumed her studies, considering possibilities for her future, and became more involved in art. With each drawing she produced, she felt as if she was expressing parts of herself that had been repressed for so long. Maxwell's support was essential in this process. Not only did he provide a safe environment, but he also encouraged her to continue exploring who she wanted to be. Life has so many possibilities, Lily, and you have all the time in the world to discover what makes you happy, he would often say, always with the same loving gaze that conveyed confidence. And little by little, Lily blossomed. She became more confident, more open to the opportunities that arose, and more certain that she could choose her own path. The memories of the past still existed, but they no longer had the power to control her. One day, while she was sketching in the garden, Maxwell approached her with a proposal. I've been thinking, have you ever considered exhibiting your drawings? I think the world deserves to see what you create. Lily laughed, a little embarrassed. Exhibit? I don't know if I'm ready for that. Maxwell smiled, his gaze full of encouragement. No one is ready. Life is about trying, and I think you have something special to share. Think about it. The idea of sharing her work with the world was daunting, but also exciting. Lily had never imagined that she could do something like this. But now, without the limitations Karen imposed on her mind, she saw the world with new possibilities. I'll think about it, she replied, with a sincere smile. Lily's future, which had once seemed bleak and uncertain, was now full of promise. With Maxwell by her side and the weight of the past finally lifted, she was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. More than that, she was ready to live fully, without fear or restrictions. And so the young woman who had once been trapped in a world of pain and manipulation was now free to create her own story. Months have passed since Lily gained her freedom. Now, in a warm and safe environment, she was ready to face the future boldly. With Maxwell's support, her artistic abilities blossomed, and the idea of exhibiting her drawings began to take hold in her mind. One morning, while having coffee with Maxwell, she decided to share her thoughts. Maxwell, I've been thinking about the exhibition. What do you think about me actually doing it? Lily said, her voice full of determination. Maxwell looked at her with a smile, his eyes shining with pride. I think it would be amazing, Lily. You have enormous talent, and the world deserves to see it. Let's find a place for the exhibition and see how we can organize everything. But what if people don't like what I do? Lily hesitated, still a little afraid of judgment. You can't control other people's opinions. What matters is that you feel fulfilled by sharing your art. It's your voice, Lily. Let it be heard, Maxwell replied, encouraging her. Maxwell's words resonated deeply with Lily. From that moment on, she decided that she wouldn't let fear of what others thought stop her from moving forward. Right then, let's do it, she said with a twinkle in her eye. Over the next few days, Lily and Maxwell began working together to organize the exhibition. They looked for local galleries and talked to friends and acquaintances about how to turn the idea into reality. Lily's excitement grew with every step they took. She spent hours in the studio working on new pieces, each representing an aspect of her journey: the struggle, the pain, and finally, freedom. One day, while they were organizing the works, Maxwell asked, "Lily, have you ever thought about what you'd like this exhibition to be called?" She paused to think. Maybe something like Renaissance? Because that's how I feel, like I'm being reborn after everything I've been through. Perfect, said Maxwell, smiling. It's a powerful name, and that's exactly what your art represents. With the name of the exhibition decided, they worked tirelessly to finalize it. Word of the exhibition began to spread around the community, and Maxwell's friends and Lily's acquaintances were excited to attend. Finally, the opening day arrived. Lily was nervous and excited, a mixture of emotions that left her in a whirlwind. When she arrived at the gallery, she felt her heart race. The walls were adorned with her works, and people began to gather, admiring each piece. Maxwell noticed her and approached. Look around you, Lily. You've already seen so many people interested in what you've created. This is just the beginning. Lily took a deep breath and smiled. You're right. I just need to remember that this is my voice. As the evening progressed, friends and strangers began to praise her work. Your art is beautiful. There's so much emotion here, a woman commented as she looked at one of the drawings. Lily was surprised, but with each compliment, her self-confidence grew. When it came time to address the audience, Maxwell encouraged her. You can do it, Lily. Just speak from the heart. Stepping onto the small stage, Lily felt a wave of nervousness. But as she looked around the room full of friendly faces, she felt a little calmer. Hello. Thank you for being here, she began, her voice a little shaky but full of sincerity. These works represent my journey. Each drawing reflects the struggle I faced in the freedom I finally found. She spoke briefly about her experience with Karen, but focused mainly on the transformation that had taken place within her. I hope that by looking at my art, you can see not only my story, but also the strength we all have to overcome challenges. Warmly applauded, Lily felt an emotion flood her being. The validation she had been seeking was right there in front of her. She had overcome her doubts, her pain, and was now allowing herself to shine. Maxwell was in the audience, with a proud smile that radiated happiness. He knew that this moment meant much more than just an art exhibition. It was a celebration of Lily's freedom and strength. As the evening wore on, people approached Lily, sharing their impressions of her works. Every conversation, every laugh, and even every tear she saw in their eyes made her realize that she had really touched people. And that made her feel that it had all been worth it. After the event, as the gallery began to empty, Maxwell approached Lily, his eyes shining. I'm so proud of you, Lily. You've done something incredible tonight. Your art isn't just beautiful, it's powerful. I couldn't have done it without you, Maxwell. Thank you for believing in me, Lily replied, her voice full of gratitude. You've always had this strength inside you. You just needed someone to help you find it, he said with an encouraging smile. At that moment, Lily understood that the exhibition was just the beginning of a new life. She was ready to face new challenges, explore new passions, and, above all, live the life she had always wanted. The past would no longer define her. Instead, she would choose to be the architect of her own future. Lily smiled, looking at the gallery walls, now a symbol of her journey. The road ahead was full of possibilities, and with Maxwell by her side, she felt she could conquer the world. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear more stories like this one, we have prepared the next video just for you. Click here to watch.